Riley Foster didn't plan to threaten a billionaire. She only wanted her brother's surgery deposit back. It was 3:17 p.m. on a Tuesday, and she was sitting in her car outside County General Hospital, staring at her phone like it had personally betrayed her. Her younger brother Jake was upstairs in pre-op, scheduled for emergency spinal surgery in 6 hours. The hospital had required a $15,000 deposit. Riley had emptied her savings, maxed out her credit card, and borrowed $3,000 from her best friend to cover it. She'd made the wire transfer that morning through her bank's mobile app. And now, according to the email she'd just received, the money had gone to the wrong account. Not pending, not delayed. Wrong account. Riley's hands shook as she called the bank. "I'm sorry, ma'am," the representative said after 20 minutes of hold music. "It appears you entered an incorrect account number. The funds were successfully delivered to the recipient." "Then get them back. We can request a reversal, but the recipient has to agree to return the funds. That process can take 5-10 business days. I don't have 10 days. My brother's surgery is tonight. I understand your frustration, but..." Riley hung up. She pulled up the transfer confirmation, hands trembling. There it was, 1 digit off. She'd been so rushed, so panicked, she'd transposed 2 numbers. Account ending in 7829 instead of 7289. $15,000. Gone. To a complete stranger, she tried to breathe, couldn't. Her vision blurred. Jake didn't have 10 days. The surgery was tonight or the window closed. The doctors had been clear. Without the procedure, he'd lose mobility in his legs. Permanently. Riley did the only thing she could think of. She pulled up the bank's app, found the transaction details, and screenshot the recipient's name. Dominic Kane. She opened a new message and typed frantically. "This is Riley Foster. You received a wire transfer of $15,000 from me today. By mistake. My brother needs emergency surgery tonight. Please send it back. I'm begging you." She hit send to the only contact info the bank provided, an email address linked to the account. Then she waited. 5 minutes, 10, 20, nothing. Riley dropped her forehead to the steering wheel and cried. Across the city, in a corner office on the 42nd floor of Kane Industries headquarters, Dominic Kane was in the middle of firing someone when his phone buzzed. He ignored it. He was very good at ignoring things. "You've been bleeding the acquisition budget for 9 months, Dominic said, his voice cold and precise. "You thought I wouldn't notice?" The man across from him, Brian, or maybe Brandon, Dominic genuinely didn't care, stammered something about market adjustments. "You're done. Security will escort you out." Dominic pressed the intercom. "Send them in." As security removed the now former employee, Dominic's assistant Melissa knocked softly. "Mr. Kane, there's been a wire transfer to your personal account. $15,000. No memo." The bank flagged it as unusual activity. Dominic frowned. "From who?" "A Riley Foster. We're running the name now, but it doesn't match any of your business contacts. Probably a scam. Reverse it." "Already tried. The sender's bank says it was intentional on their end. They're requesting a voluntary return." Dominic's jaw tightened. "I don't have time for this. Handle it." Melissa hesitated. "There's also a message. From the same person. It came to your private email." "How did they get my private email?" "The bank must have provided it with the transfer details. They're claiming it was an accident. Something about a brother's surgery." Dominic looked at her. "You read my private email?" "You asked me to monitor unusual activity after the stalking incident." He sighed. "Fine. What does it say?" Melissa read it aloud. "This is Riley Foster. You received a wire transfer of $15,000 from me today. By mistake. My brother needs emergency surgery tonight. Please send it back. I'm begging you." Dominic leaned back in his chair. "It's a con. They send money, claim it's a mistake, get you emotionally invested with some sob story, then request double back. Should I respond? Block the address, return the money, move on." Melissa nodded and left. Dominic turned back to his monitor, but something about the message nagged at him. It wasn't polished, no formal greeting, no legal threats, just raw desperation. He pulled up his private email and read it himself. The timestamp was 12 minutes ago. Against his better judgment, he typed a response. What kind of surgery? Riley's phone buzzed. She grabbed it so fast she nearly dropped it. An email from DeKaneACaniIndustries.com. What kind of surgery? She typed back immediately, fingers flying. Spinal. He was in a car accident 2 weeks ago, 3 herniated discs. Without surgery tonight, he loses use of his legs. The hospital needs the deposit. I made a mistake with the account number. Please, I'll send you proof. I'll send you anything you want. She attached the hospital invoice, the surgery consent forms, Jake's intake paperwork. Hit send, waited. 3 minutes later, this is real. Yes, I swear, please. Another pause, longer this time. Then, what hospital? County General. Surgery is scheduled for 9 p.m. I'm in the parking lot right now. Stay there. Riley stared at the message. What? No response. 45 minutes later, a black Mercedes pulled into the parking spot next to Riley's beat-up Honda. The driver's door opened and a man stepped out. Tall, mid-30s, dark hair, sharp suit that probably cost more than her rent. Cold gray eyes that looked like they'd never smiled in their life. He walked to her passenger window and knocked. Riley unlocked the door. He slid into the passenger seat like he owned it. Riley Foster, his voice was exactly like she'd imagined. Clipped, controlled, no warmth. Yes, are you... Dominic Kane, she stared at him. You came here? You said your brother's surgery is tonight. I wanted to verify your story before I returned the money. Riley's throat tightened. So you think I'm lying? I think people lie all the time, especially when money's involved. I have proof. I saw the documents. They could be forged. Riley's hands curled into fists. Then why are you here? Because if you're telling the truth, your brother doesn't have time for me to waste 3 days verifying your story. He pulled out his phone. What's the hospital billing department's number? Riley rattled it off. Dominic called. Put it on speaker. County General Billing, this is Sandra. This is Dominic Kane. I'm calling regarding a patient. He looked at Riley. Jake Foster, she whispered. Jake Foster. I understand there's a surgery scheduled for this evening with a required deposit. Yes, sir. We're still waiting on the deposit. The surgery's scheduled for 9 p.m., but if we don't receive payment by 7 p.m., we'll have to reschedule. Dominic glanced at his watch. 4:32 p.m. What's the amount? $15,000. I'm wiring it now, directly from Kane Industries. Confirm when it's received. There was a pause on the other end. Sir, are you sure? Yes. Send the confirmation to this number. He rattled off his cell and hung up. Riley sat frozen. You just paid for my brother's surgery? I returned your money, technically. But you didn't send it to me. You sent it directly to the hospital. Because if you're running a scam, the hospital still gets paid and your brother gets his surgery. If you're telling the truth, same result. Either way, a kid doesn't lose his legs. Riley felt tears burning. Why would you do that? Dominic looked at her. Really looked at her. Dark blonde hair pulled into a messy ponytail. No makeup. Exhausted blue eyes. Wrinkled t-shirt. She looked like she'd been awake for 3 days straight. Because someone did something similar for me once, he said quietly. And I've never forgotten it. Riley wiped her eyes. Thank you. I don't know how to thank you. You don't have to. His phone buzzed. He checked it. Payment confirmed. Surgery's a go. Riley let out a sob. Oh my God. You should go inside. Be with your brother. She nodded, opened her door, then paused. Can I pay you back? Over time? I can set up a payment plan. No, but I can't just... You can, and you will, because arguing with me is a waste of time you should be spending with your brother. Riley stared at him. You're not what I expected. Most people say that. She climbed out of the car, then leaned back in. Why did you come here? You could have just sent the money. You didn't have to drive across the city to verify my story in person. Dominic was quiet for a moment. Because I needed to see your face. Why? To know if you were lying. And? You're not. Riley nodded slowly. Thank you, Mr. Kane. Dominic, thank you. She closed the door and walked toward the hospital entrance. Dominic sat in his car and watched her go. He should leave. He'd done his good deed. Fixed the problem. Moved on. Instead, He pulled up his email and typed a message. "How's your brother?" Riley sat in the surgical waiting room, phone in hand, staring at the email. She'd been sitting there for 4 hours. Jake had been in surgery for 3. The email had come through 20 minutes ago, from Dominic Kane. "How's your brother?" she typed back. "Still in surgery. They said 4-6 hours. Thank you again for what you did." His response came quickly. "Don't thank me until he's out." "Why are you still checking on me?" "Because I paid $15,000. I want to know how the story ends." Riley almost smiled. "That's fair." She set her phone down and leaned her purse head back against the wall. 2 minutes later, it buzzed again. "Have you eaten?" She blinked. "What?" "Food. Have you eaten today?" Riley thought about it. "Coffee this morning, nothing since." "No." "Hospital cafeteria still open?" "I think so." "Go eat something. I'll wait." "Wait for what?" "For you to update me on your brother." Riley stared at the message. "You don't have to do that." "I know." She didn't know what to say to that. So she went to the cafeteria, bought a sandwich she could barely taste, and came back to the waiting room. She took a photo of the sandwich and sent it. "Evidence." "Good. Now eat it. Bossy." "You have no idea." This time, she did smile. At 9:47 p.m., the surgeon came out. "Ms. Foster," Riley shot to her feet. "Yes, how is he?" "Surgery went well. We were able to repair all 3 discs. He'll need physical therapy, but his prognosis is excellent. He should make a full recovery." Riley's knees buckled. The surgeon caught her arm. "He's going to be okay?" "He's going to be okay." Riley started crying. The surgeon handed her tissues and gave her a moment. "Can I see him?" "He's in recovery." "Give us about an hour, then we'll bring you back." The surgeon left. Riley collapsed back into the chair, pulled out her phone and typed with shaking hands. "He's okay. Surgery went perfectly. He's going to walk again." The response was immediate. "Good." She waited for more. Nothing came. Then, after a minute, "I'm glad he's okay." Riley typed, "Me too. Thank you doesn't feel like enough." "It's enough. Can I buy you coffee or dinner? Something to say thank you properly." There was a long pause. "You don't owe me anything." "I know, but I want to." Another pause. "Friday, 7 p.m. I'll send you an address." "I'll be there." Friday came faster than Riley expected. She stood outside Marcello's, an Italian restaurant so upscale she'd never even heard of it, wearing the only dress she owned that didn't have a stain on it. She felt ridiculously out of place. The hostess greeted her warmly. "Name?" "Riley Foster. I'm meeting Dominic Kane." The woman's entire demeanor shifted. "Of course. Right this way." She was led to a private table in the back. Dominic was already there, standing when she approached. He looked different, less severe. White button-down, no tie, sleeves rolled. "You came," he said. "You sound surprised." "Most people get intimidated and cancel." Riley sat. "I'm not most people. I'm starting to see that." A waiter appeared, poured water, left menus. "How's Jake?" Dominic asked. "Good, really good. He's already doing physical therapy. The doctors say he'll be walking with assistance in 2 weeks, full mobility in 6. That's fast. He's stubborn, doesn't like asking for help. Kind of runs in the family." Dominic's mouth twitched. Almost a smile. "I can see that." They ordered. The conversation flowed easier than Riley expected. She learned he'd started Kane Industries 10 years ago with a $50,000 loan and no connections. Built it into a $3 billion company through acquisitions and restructuring. He learned she was a graphic designer who freelanced while taking care of Jake, who'd been living with her since their parents died in a house fire 6 years ago. "So you've been raising him since he was 14, Dominic asked. "Someone had to. I was 21, barely an adult myself. But family's family." Dominic looked at her differently after that. "That's rare." "What is?" "People who actually show up." "You showed up, at the hospital. You didn't have to." "I did, though, once I knew it was real." Riley tilted her head. "Why?" Because I've spent 10 years building a company, making money, winning. And none of it matters if I can't do something decent when it's put right in front of me. That's not what billionaires are supposed to say. He almost smiled. I'm not most billionaires. I'm starting to see that. They stayed until the restaurant closed, talked until the staff started stacking chairs. Outside on the sidewalk, Riley turned to him. Thank you for tonight, for everything. You're welcome. Can I see you again? Dominic hesitated. Riley, if you're going to say I don't owe you anything, I know. This isn't about owing you. This is about wanting to see you again. He looked at her for a long moment. I'm not good at this. At what? People, connection. I built my career on being ruthless. I don't do well with this. Riley stepped closer. What if I told you I don't care? I'd say you should. But I don't. Dominic's jaw tightened. Then he pulled out his phone and handed it to her. Put your number in. She did. He called it immediately so she'd have his. I'll text you, he said. When? Tomorrow, if you still want to see me after you've had time to think about this. I will. We'll see. He texted her the next morning. Coffee? Yes. When? Now. Riley was still in pajamas. She typed back. Give me 30 minutes. I'll pick you up. Send me your address. She did, then panicked. Her apartment was tiny. Jake's crutches were everywhere. The place was a disaster. Too late. 28 minutes later, her doorbell rang. She opened it. Dominic stood there with 2 coffees. You're early. I'm always early. Jake appeared behind her on crutches. Who's this? Jake. This is Dominic. Dominic, my brother Jake. Jake's eyes widened. Wait, you're the guy who paid for my surgery? I am. Jake stared at him. Then at Riley, then back at Dominic. You're dating my sister? Jake. Riley's face went red. We're not, Dominic started. We're figuring it out, Riley cut in. Jake grinned. Cool, don't hurt her. I may be on crutches, but I can still fight. Dominic's mouth twitched. Noted. They fell into a rhythm. Coffee twice a week. Dinner when their schedules aligned. Long phone. Calls late at night when Dominic was working and Riley was drawing. He was different than she expected. Guarded, yes. Controlled, absolutely. But underneath there was something softer. He asked about her work, sent her clients when she mentioned struggling to find freelance gigs, offered advice without being condescending. She challenged him, called him out when he was being cold, made him laugh in meetings by texting him absurd observations. 3 months in, he invited her to a charity gala. I don't have anything to wear to a gala, Riley said. I'll take care of it. Dominic, let me, please. The dress arrived 2 days later, simple, elegant, perfect. At the gala, Riley felt like she'd walked into another world. Everyone knew Dominic. Everyone wanted something from him. He handled it all with practiced ease, but his hand stayed on the small of her back the entire night. You okay? He whispered during dinner. This is overwhelming. We can leave. No, I'm okay. This is your world, not mine. It's not my world either. It's a performance. She looked at him. What's your real world? I'll show you. He took her to a boxing gym in a rough part of town at 6 a.m. the next Saturday. This is where I come when I need to think, he said. She watched him spar, watched him move with a precision that was almost violent. Afterward, sweating and catching his breath, he looked at her, still interested. More than before. Why? Because you just showed me the part of you that's real. 6 months in, Jake cornered Riley in the kitchen. You're in love with him. Riley froze. What? Come on, I'm not blind. You light up when he texts. You smile at nothing. You're gone. I'm not. It's okay. He's good for you. You think so? Yeah, and I think you're good for him too. The confession came on a Tuesday. They were at Riley's apartment. Jake was at physical therapy. Dominic had brought takeout. I need to tell you something, Riley said. Okay. I'm falling in love with you. Actually, I think I already fell. And I know this is complicated and you have a whole life and I'm just... He kissed her. When they broke apart, he rested his forehead against hers. I'm terrible at this, he whispered. At what? Saying the right thing, being vulnerable, all of it. Then don't say anything. I have to, because you deserve to hear it. He pulled back just enough to meet her eyes. I've spent 10 years building walls, keeping everyone out, and then you sent me $15,000 by mistake, and I couldn't ignore you. I tried, but you kept showing up, kept being real, kept making me want to be better. Dominic, I'm in love with you, and it terrifies me, but not as much as the thought of losing you. Riley kissed him again. Slower this time. You're not losing me. Promise? Promise. One year later, Riley stood in front of the bathroom mirror in Dominic's penthouse, staring at the ring on her finger. He'd proposed last night, no fanfare, just the two of them on his couch, after she'd fallen asleep on his shoulder watching a movie. She'd woken to him holding a ring box. Marry me, not a question, a statement. She'd said yes before she was fully awake. Now in the morning light, she kept staring at it. You're going to wear a hole in the mirror, Dominic said from the doorway. She turned. He was in his running gear, sweaty from his morning workout. I can't believe this is real. It's real. A year ago, I was broke and desperate. Now I'm engaged to a billionaire. This doesn't happen in real life. He walked over, wrapped his arms around her from behind. It happened because you sent money to the wrong account. And I answered. Best mistake I ever made. Second best, he corrected. What's the first? Thinking I could ignore you. She laughed and turned in his arms. I love you. I love you too, even though you're terrible at entering account numbers. Hey, it's true. She swatted his arm. He caught her hand, brought it to his lips. Thank you, he said quietly. For what? For seeing me. Not the money, not the company. Me. That's all I ever wanted to see. The wedding 6 months later. It was small, just family and close friends. Jake walked Riley down the aisle. No crutches, full mobility, exactly like the doctors promised. Dominic stood at the altar looking like he might actually cry. When it was time for vows, Riley went first. A year and a half ago, I made a mistake. I sent $15,000 to the wrong person. I was terrified, desperate, broken, and you answered. You could have ignored me, could have kept the money, could have walked away. But you didn't. You showed up. And you keep showing up every day, in 1,000 small ways. You make me better, you make me brave, and you love my brother like he's your own. So my vow is simple. I'll spend the rest of my life making sure you never regret answering that message. I'll show up for you, the way you showed up for me. Dominic's voice was steady when he spoke. I built my entire life on control, on walls, on keeping people at a distance. And then you sent me a message meant for someone else, and for the first time in years, I felt something crack open. You reminded me that the best things in life aren't planned. They're accidents, beautiful, messy accidents. My vow is this. I'll spend the rest of my life making sure you and Jake never have to fight alone. I'll answer every time, every message, every call, every moment you need me, I'll answer. They kissed. Jake cheered from the front row. And for the first time in a very long time, Riley felt like everything, all the struggle, all the fear, all the desperate moments, had led her exactly where she was supposed to be.